The Franklin County Fiscal Court Strategic Planning Committee meeting for July the 19th, 2021. And we welcome you. The first, we call this meeting to order. We have the two squires and myself that are here. Let's go into new business. The first item in new business is, Robert, would you give us an update on the properties, I guess, what you found out or about the properties or where we are with at the road department?
Okay, so there were two separate properties that we were, property owners were in communication with. One is in agreement with the negotiations. The other is going to pursue some additional information, and hopefully we can report back next month or so as it relates to the outcome of that.
We did have a conversation with one of them this morning, and they're contacting their relatives and are working on getting something final to us. So when we hear back from them, John, I would assume we'll get an agreement. We get the property done, taken care of. If we can come to an agreement, hopefully we will. The next step will be an RFP to Robert, what you think?
Yes, sir, for design services.
For design services.
Yes.
How do you foresee that going? Would you be asking just for them to take a look at it? John, let's have that discussion right now, you all, about how that might look. What do you see in the RFP, Robert?
I would anticipate the court requesting advertisement for an architectural engineering firm to do site analysis as well as assist with structure design. Have bid documents prepared and then put that out for general construction bid.
We need to make certain that they understand we still have to operate out of that place. For sure.
Hey, John, in your eyes, if things do work out, what buildings or anything do you see staying? Because I'm assuming it's all going to need to be reorganized. I mean, is that front where the office is? I mean, that's kind of out of the way, isn't it? Or is that in the way?
No, it's fine. I think we can leave the office.
But maybe not use it as an office though.
But
The storage
it's gonna
or
be,
cafeteria.
that's the thing, it's gotta be put together like a puzzle, I think, is where to keep us operating.
Right. Time is going to be everything
That's
down
gonna be
there.
the hard part.
Yeah.
But I think we're looking at, the first thing would be to start where the big barn is, and, it's just storage, basically. I think that's our key spot to start. That way we can still operate, out of the shop. And then, once that transition, that can come down, then start back with storage. It's gonna be a pretty big deal to try to make everything work so we can still operate.
What kind of structures are you mentally preparing for? Obviously, a shop, obviously some kind of office if the existing office is not going to, I guess, meet the needs going forward. Some kind of storage, salt storage. Are you thinking for some things there'll be like only shed storage? Others will need fully constructed buildings with, poured floors and things like that. Just give us a sense of what your thoughts are and your staff, that you've consulted throughout the process here.
Yeah, from the places I've went and looked at, everybody's got different things.
Mhm.
But I think as far as, heavy equipment, whatever, most of that can be more shed storage. And we've got some shed storage right now and it works fine.
Right.
But I think, we try to keep all our vehicles in, under lock and key. And I think that's something that has to be addressed. And that's one of the big things I think we need to address in this process is perimeter fencing. Because we do have several.
It's a lot cheaper to do perimeter fencing than it is to build a large
Yeah,
storage building for all the vehicles, isn't it?
yeah, but we still need some sort of storage for, especially, you know, all your snow equipment. You don't want to come in at 2 o'clock in the morning and dig a foot of snow off
Right.
of it. And, you know, I think that's a vehicles mainly have to be pretty much inside.
John, when we looked at Scott County's facility, did they have, wasn't it all bay?
Most of theirs was bay.
Uh-huh.
It was stacked too deep. It was, I didn't like it, honestly, just the way it looked, the way it worked. I didn't like it. But, maybe there's other options on the table, but I was looking at some stuff like that. Around spots, you know, we could stick a shed here, back some stuff in here. But when you go to putting vehicles too deep, that's, you know, it's a pain. But you gotta go find the keys to move this one, to get that one out, and it just turns into a mess.
How much land's down there if we can acquire those two pieces that we need to puzzle them together?
3 or 4 acres, isn't it?
Yeah, we'll wind up close to 5 probably.
Close to 5 acres?
Should be. Somewhere in there. Maybe.
Not all of it's usable.
Right, there's still gonna be some over that hill that's
Right.
not gonna be great. You know, and I'm looking at, you know, possibly putting another entrance in. We can make it work. I don't know, there's,
Is there any problems with Robert putting an entrance in where he's talking down there?
But county roads,
yeah, I mean, it's a good spot to put one here. Get us some access going in the back way.
Going with Sherry's statement of what your vision thoughts are, what would the garage building as in work facility for your vehicles, what would that look like? How many bays would you have?
We've kicked it around a little bit, like I've looked at several different designs. Went and looked at a couple different ones. And something like the fire station up here would suffice, I believe.
Yeah.
We're looking at, you know, 4
Drive
bays, 5 bays.
through one way, come out the other.
Yes, that's a must have. Something similar to that.
With Robert does I can't remember the fire station. We designed it so it could have an extra door, but we did it, right now it's just storage, isn't it?
we designed it for a 5th bay.
For fifth bay.
Yes. On the far end where the tool storage bay is right now.
Is it big enough, the fire station itself, if you look at it, is it big enough to house some of your snow equipment? And keep your trucks going in?
I don't know. I mean, it'd be tight in some ways, but I think we need to look at height. If we're gonna do this.
Oh, well, I'm talking about the fire station itself. It may not be, but height wise, yes. Well, so whatever it is that your bed is straight up in the air, it needs to be higher than that point.
I don't know. I mean, basically that concept would work. I think it would work fine.
You said you looked at, excuse me, Scott County, you didn't really care for theirs. You don't think it would work well for our situation, I guess, per se, but have you looked at one that you're like, oh, that's pretty close to what I envision, or?
Now, they're pretty much all the same.
Okay.
Most of them you see, there's some that's got some that are separate. You know, I've heard a lot of things about putting the office in the same building as the shop. So that they're in there beating and banging and revving motors and all the fumes and All you got's a little door
Yeah.
between you. You know, I've heard a lot of people complain
Mhm.
about that, so that's something I've thought about too. Is there a way to separate that? I don't know. It's gonna take a lot of head scratching and thinking. I mean, to get somebody in here to start drawing pictures, and we need to sit down and
Let me ask you this, John, Robert, is it, what, could it be feasible to bring a trailer into John's area for an office if it came down to tearing down that office that he's in, administrative building, and as we redo it and put it in another area, it could be done?
Yes.
Okay.
I was thinking, Judge, if depending on time of the year, and that would be critical in this, you know, could we do a mobile site if need be? You know, like I know we have that property on Home Street, like could they temporarily for a month or two park down there just so they're not in the middle of the construction, or, you know, maybe
Yeah,
that's where a trailer goes completely off site, so we're not bobbing and weaving around a construction site. Just a thought.
But they're still gonna have to come down and drive down because they got there's no way that's big enough for all the trucks that they're gonna have.
Well, depending on time of year, it might help.
Yeah.
right. Yeah, I mean, it's a good place to get rid of some stuff, get it out of the way.
It's 2 acres.
Down there on Home Street. Okay.
2.1, yes.
Yeah,
Uh,
that might be a crutch, and that's fenced, isn't it, Rob?
Yes, sir, with security lighting.
And I think to your point earlier, kind of, I think that's key in the RFP, or whenever we get to that point of security, you know, with camera and stuff like that. I know you all have had a couple things leave down there.
So thinking more about some of the things that would be down there, I guess would you have a need for like a small tool storage area? Would you have a need for like fuels and additives and things like that?
Parts,
You know,
too.
you'll have to have, just trying to think of what separate spaces that you're probably gonna need. Then you're gonna need like probably a large space for, you know, like the dumpsters and all the things that go in that. And like you said, some shed storage that you could just pull under, you know, for the street sweeper and, you know, other small bits. Probably you all have like silt fencing, hay and things like that have to be somewhere, I'd say.
Yep.
So, you know, kind of in your mind, and you know, I know you've talked about a little bit of shed storage and the garage, and then obviously perimeter fencing, but what other kind of things? Because obviously the salt's gonna need to be in its own spot.
Salt storage
It's
is
gonna-
a biggie because
is.
of, well, I mean, there's 10 different ways you can go. You can go Cadillac, or, you know, there's other ways it's a lot cheaper.
Is it, the way you're doing it now in one of those bays, is that working? Okay,
It works, yeah, I mean, it works, but it's, the problem you have is you get the moisture.
And it's corrosive to everything else.
Yeah,
It's gotta keep it away
everything
from,
up, where
it eats everything
it's
up.
out in the, you know, it just, that kind of floats in the air down there. But you'll get a crust, it'll be 2 foot thick over the summer, and then, Lord, that stuff gets hard, it's hard as concrete.
Yeah.
Do you,
covered or no?
yeah.
No,
Oh, you don't?
not the front, no.
Oh, shit.
Do you tarp it?
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, yeah.
That's fine.
You have a top over it, right?
Yeah, it's
slip or
covered
something
on
like that.
top, but that's it.
Do you tarp it in the summertime? Would it help to tarp it?
You know, we've tried tarping, and it's still, it keeps drawing moisture.
Moisture,
Under
yeah.
that, it sweats, and, that's why a lot of them take out with the wood structure, because it helps pull the moisture out of it.
Mhm.
And everybody says, don't do wood, go with concrete. Yeah, I mean, there's 100 different ways. The
But it
one-
eats, it corrodes concrete. I mean, it, you know, in 5 years, concrete's,
Yeah, that's
gone.
what mine's in now is concrete, and it's eating it up.
yeah,
And there's cracks in the
So-
walls, because when you
right.
go in and get loaded, you hit the wall,
Mhm.
push it on the wall, and the back wall's already bowed out.
right.
You know, it's, I like the wood. The wood seems pretty smart to me, and they put them on asphalt. So, you know, you eliminate 90% corrosion issues
Mhm.
going that way. And
Well,
then I've
that's-
seen some just stack up concrete blocks and put a hoop cover over it, and there it is. And it's the cheap route.
But have you, from conferences and talking to other people in your similar position, have they kind of shared maybe any best practices? Because like you said, you can go the Pinto route, you can go the Cadillac route. So, what are they, because the thing is, like you said, with the concrete, you have to put steel in it. Once it erodes the concrete, it's gonna erode the steel.
Yeah.
Your good money is gone now.
Oh,
And you're either gonna have to throw more money after the good money.
well, most of, people in my profession, 90% of your counties, they've never been able to afford to put anything much better than what we've got, if that. A lot of them still, back in the days where we were, was just a pile outside and you put a tarp over it.
Yeah.
That's where most of them are now, but a lot of them have built these little hoop structures. And that's helped. They really like that, but the only, the one I went to Scott County is wood. It's nice. It's a real nice thing. That's one of the newer ones that I've ever seen. But even the state are just doing more or less the hoop things anymore. From what I've seen from those.
Mhm. And now, are they doing that more for your salt storage structures or more for, are they combining that for like your
Everything.
light duty equipment kind of?
They use it for everything.
Really?
Yeah. And, keep material in, that's another thing. That worked great, like dirt. It's great to have dry dirt sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we try to keep us a little spot where we can keep a load just dry dirt.
Mhm.
Having access to dry dirt is nice. So, that's something else that needs to be thought about.
We started putting our dirt in shipping containers. Once we run it through the machine, we load our semi-loads.
How do you get out of a shipping container?
Skid steer, drive it in,
Drive it
dump it
right
back.
over.
But
Okay.
it's nice because even John knows, even if you have something covered in plastic, that moisture sucks up from the ground and you could have the best tarp system on it and then you go pick the tarp off and then you have mud. So that's been pretty helpful. So Judge, do you know, like in things like this, is there specialty companies that just design and lay out like road department facilities, or have you heard?
There are people that have experience.
I'm sure there is. I don't
I
know.
mean, they're, like I said, Scott, what was it, 5 years ago, Scott County spent over $9 million and built out of their reserves. They had over almost $30 million in reserves. This is before COVID.
And that's on how many acres? Do you remember?
What, but 3 or 4 or 5 acres.
Yeah, it's a small area. But
I measured it at one point. I didn't think it was much. I think, yeah.
it's small.
It's a nice facility.
Yeah, and we've got room. I think if we can get this property, I think just laying it out the right way, and I'm all for envisioning, I want a place to wash trucks, something maybe even inside to some degree. When it's zero, it's kind of hard to wash trucks. So, salt eats them up and then you gotta get them clean. But then you have to worry about wastewater and all that. We've got to have detentions and all that. So there's a lot of design that's got to go into this thing.
Have you all made kind of because I know, let's say we do an RFP and they're gonna come to you and they're gonna want the wish list, have you all put anything on the side of a board as far as we need this, we want that, we need this?
I've got most of that written down.
Yeah.
I've got a good idea of what we need. Then there's always the wants. But like I said, I think the hard part is just laying it out, getting it to where it'll flow and making it fit. And I think it'll fit. It's just fit the puzzle pieces.
If you put a second entrance in, would you have one way in and one way out?
It's a possibility. I really like my second entrance would be more, I think, for like my salt deliveries. The dumpster man coming in, bigger stuff, because the way my lot's laid out now and the way my entrance is, big trucks and stuff they have trouble getting in
I was gonna say,
and getting out. They
I'm sure
usually
they do.
book my gate most of the time. It's just a tight radius and
Mhm.
I think there's room to come in that other way and we can have a nice good wide straight shot in and out.
Have you looked at the state's garage there and the new one there? Is it-
I bet he stares
You probably look
longingly
at it
at it every day, every day.
I mean, in it.
He's probably
In
salivating.
it, and I don't mean just looking at it is not what I meant. I mean,
It's massive.
thoroughly vetted.
Mhm.
Is it like is its working days what you would like to see?
Yeah, they've got room to put 50 trucks in there. I mean, it's unreal how big it is. But then they've done it good. They've sectioned it off and got, the welding stuff is over on this side and, the trucks are down here and the snow stuff's here. And, they've laid it out pretty well. It's nice.
John, do your guys have like a routine, like when we laid our new lot out, we know like they have to unload their trash first, then recyclable, and then fuel, then load, and then park. So we designed it so it's a flow, so there's never hit and reverse, basically. So do you all have a set thing?
See, that's something like the barn right now.
Mhm.
Talk about never hitting reverse.
It's kind
Well,
of,
I know that's where you are now, but
But
The
that's
goal
what I'm
would
looking
be-
at, is to look to go that route. Yeah, that would be great to be able to do that because 90% of the stuff, that's where it comes. Boom, whoops.
yeah,
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Or this one coming this way and this one backing out. It's just one of those things. Yeah, I mean, that has to be thought of, I'm sure.
Mhm.
It needs to be. And the fuel station, there's gonna be those times, yeah, it's gonna go backwards, but especially in like salt, when you're on snow, that has to be a perfect route.
Mhm.
It has to go in that one circle. And we've got it somewhat to that point now, but
Let's say the spot is too tight. Let's just throw that out there. Say 4 acres isn't enough by the time they space plan everything. Would it be silly to put the salt structure down on Home Street with a piece of equipment down there during winter? Just load trucks out of? I mean, if you could take that out of the equation of if there's not room.
yeah, I mean,
I'm not sure that would be enough space too,
I don't know.
especially with that building, right, that Willie Hensley's car lot there in front of you.
I don't know.
That's not a large entrance going in and out of there. It's wide enough for a dump truck, but it's still
I don't want to put
turning it around and.
Never thought about it.
I'm just thinking out loud, You keep going back to salt and everything, and I know snow is a whole nother beast. I mean, I'm with you on that one, but I was just thinking, you have seen people that just do separate areas for that. So even if the whole hoop house went down there,
Right.
or most of your salts just triaxles bringing in there, or are you getting semis?
It depends. You just never know what's gonna show up.
Yeah.
John,
There's a
these,
lot of
the,
them.
the designs, and you've seen them and I have too, where the chapel designed and come out like that. And do they open on all sides? Do they have doors that open on all sides? Do they just have doors open on one particular side where you have a front end loader come in and pull it out of?
Most of them just have one open.
Okay.
Most of them.
Oh, you're talking like the big octagon?
Yes.
Yeah. Man, they hold a whole lot, don't they?
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's a big
Yeah,
structure.
A lot of stuff. you can get in.
so in your thought process with the staff, as you vision this out and the needs and the want list, are you visioning out for 15 years from now, 20 years from now, just to see kind of what other types of pieces of equipment may get added to the fleet? We've talked multiple times about specific, some ditching equipment that we don't have now. At some point, probably going to come into the fleet. How soon, who knows? Just trying to think, I guess, really trying to think down the road some.
Yeah, I think, number wise, we're probably top of our game with pieces of equipment. if we could fit, that, I think we'd be pretty good. Size wise, to be able to get something as big as this room in there, that, I have thought about that. Which, there's so many variables of how you can do it.
Well, the thing is, we're probably never gonna buy a crane. I mean, there's pieces of equipment we're never gonna buy.
No.
So, but thinking of the things that are the backbone, your dump trucks, your loaders. Those things really truly are the backbone of what you have. And then there may be some specialized equipment, like the ditching, that is not your normal run-of-the-mill thing that a lot of folks would have. But in trying to get to the top end, because recently, at least probably during some of the last court, this court's been good about trying to, keep good equipment coming in so you can cycle some of that other stuff out that that's got a lot of hours on it. So, do you feel like the volume of equipment, I guess, is what we need? Do we need 5% more volume to really do because the key thing is matching the equipment and the amount of staff and the talent, skill, and ability of the staff to do it too.
I think we're on track where we're at right now. Honestly, I think we're running really good, and we've got enough equipment for backup if something goes down. We can keep on running. There's very little that slows us down if we have a breakdown. So, I think we're in pretty good shape at the moment. I don't know, what it's gonna look like 20 years from now, or we're gonna have 100 more miles of road out. I don't know.
So in your mechanic shop, now what kind of things would you like to see transition to a new mechanic shop?
Lifts.
Or you think it lifts? I hear you on lifts. So are you thinking, how many lifts are you thinking that we're gonna have to have? I mean,
One better than zero.
yeah, absolutely. I'm so with you. But I mean, if you're really thinking of it, okay, is the optimal to have 2 or 3, and your backup plan is if you can't get 3, we really do need 2. I mean, what is the real need? Obviously,
one big one and one small one.
Yeah, I'm thinking 2 in my mind, but I'm not trying to.
No, that would be one.
Can a big one suffice for a small one? Or is it, in other words, if you got a big and a small and the small one broke down, can you still use a big one on smaller vehicles?
As long as it'll adjust out.
Collapsible? Yeah, okay.
Get in.
Okay. So I think that would be a way to do it.
Yeah. I mean, we need something to pick those big trucks up. Then once we've got a smaller one, that'll pick up, what you need in a small dump.
12,000 pounds.
So piggyback on Sherry again. Sorry, Sherry, I don't mean to be piggybacking on you, but
I don't think Money can
I
handle
know
it.
you're moving.
Money can handle it.
My wife would say I'm a load anyway, so that's another story. But what about the future and down the road? Scott County does all of their maintenance, fire trucks, even ambulance, because they have a little different agreement in Scott County and Georgetown. All of that maintenance is out of that one building there. Should we think that, should we design the building? Shouldn't we? I would think we should go on and design it as if there's a possibility of fire trucks coming in there at some point in time. Whether it is or isn't. Chief, you can interject in here too if you want. But I would think that we design the Bay areas to cover the largest vehicles we got in Franklin County government and use them for what we can use them for at the time. But at least they're designed for that type of operation. Whether it happens or not, if it doesn't, then that's fine. Okay?
You know, I would agree with, I think in the past, at our strategic planning meetings, we've talked about a fleet maintenance facility for that very purpose. For, you know, road, fire, sheriff, you know, the vehicles that we have down here, there might be an opportunity to take in other vehicles, like for the health department, if we're trying to bring a little money in, a little revenue. Some of the water districts, because they have vehicles, so you could have kind of a continuity of maintenance for those vehicles rather than just trying to get it in. And the mechanics also who work there also know the history of the vehicles, and that helps a whole lot for fleet maintenance. So I know we've talked about that, you know, here before, and I think that's a kind of leads us down that path because we have dedicated crew that understands all of those vehicles. I don't know,
No, and I agree. And I know John's point before was, you know, that might be a separate thing. You know, the road department's not gonna take that on.
Right.
And I don't think the judge, I don't think you're saying that, but at least if we're building a facility, and let's say we need to hire another full-time mechanic or something like that, that would be a separate entity, but it would still be there. And I think in the past, you were a little concerned as far as vehicles coming and going, and I think that just comes down to, hopefully, once we get to that point in the near future, that we can hire a firm to start laying things out. And I think that's what I was asking earlier. You're gonna have to basically say, you know, we need this, and this. We might want that, or can we do this? So I think those are all things that are gonna come into play when they're moving everything around on CAD and flow and things like that. So, but no, I'd agree with the judge and Square.
Yep.
That's definitely what we need to look at. Was Chief gonna say, is Chief on or?
Chief's on there. Go ahead, Chief.
Good afternoon, Court and Judge. I'm with John. It's always better to plan for the future, even if you don't need it at the very immediate time. It's a lot cheaper now to prepare for what might be versus once you're there, it's too late.
Yeah. So the way I envision this, once the property is secured, procured, whichever, hopefully procured, then Robert, the way we do it, we'll go to the road committee. The road committee is Lambert, who would be excellent on that, and Tracy, I think, and work the process through, bring it back to court for an RFP and start. And I don't see it being that much longer before we can get started. The question will be where the money's coming from,
Right.
How much it's going to be. That's going to be the question. But
do we have a sense of when this other family that is, I guess, considering their land options, when they may be getting back with us? Did they give us an idea? You'll hear from us within the month.
yes,
You'll hear from us with.
yes,
Oh, okay.
yes. That's the word I got in discussion.
So we
Within
should
a
know
month.
something
Well, I mean, that's
by the end
That's
of
what they're
maybe
saying,
August.
yeah. Well, I definitely think the month of September, if you're looking at a time frame,
Yeah.
is very realistic in thinking that we can start the process of RFPs. And that doesn't take about a month, Robert, when you go through the process of RFPs, a couple of
Yes.
weeks, and then you say we would go for design first,
Be nice to hire an architectural and engineering firm
all at the same
who
time.
could do site design.
You do shop drawings and everything at the same time?
Yeah, I would.
Yes.
Do you see a construction manager as part of that? That'd be part of that process?
I guess it depends on which firm you end up going with. You know, AE firms probably won't provide that service. You'd have to bid that out separate
Okay.
if the court wanted to go with the CM.
Okay.
Design build firms would have their own construction manager, but just straight up AEs wouldn't. Not typically.
Okay, so we'd probably get two different types of proposals.
Well, design build is laid out separately in the statute, so I mean, we'd have to research that.
Judge, can I ask, what if the family comes back and says, you know what, we're just gonna hold this piece of land? Do we have a plan B? I mean, I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer, but what if?
I don't want to discuss that in
Okay.
open meeting because
Okay.
that will possibly litigation, so I'd rather not
Okay.
go into that. But there are other avenues,
Okay,
okay?
all good, all good. Just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
You know me, I like to,
I know, but.
yeah, that's all good.
Okay.
So Robert, with
doesn't
our,
come back.
was that?
Let's hope that doesn't come.
Yeah, no, I agree. So Robert, I guess to your point, and I guess Judge's thing, so if we put an RFP out, do we steer that towards design build firm or just an architectural engineering firm? Can you do that through an RFP?
On the design build, I would have to check in the statute on that. That is a separate section
Yeah, I
in
don't
the
know.
procurement code,
Right,
but an RFP is specific to architectural and engineering firms,
right.
so.
And then I guess ultimately we could put in there, it's not necessarily the lowest bid. It's who, per se, the committee chooses, right? So if there was one that you all liked better or that had worked with better or something like that, then,
Yeah, the RFP is a qualifications-based selection,
right,
much like with the Lakeview Park Master Plan.
right.
You know, price is negotiated after you've selected your top rank.
Yeah, oh, that's
If you
right.
don't, if you can't come to an agreement on the price, then you can go
Okay,
to number
yeah.
2.
That's right.
I forgot about that whole
So it's a
That's
process.
QBS.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you just want to make sure that they meet the minimum criteria to be kind of in the ballgame.
Gotcha.
That's different.
Okay. I forgot that was the process. Yeah.
Okay, that's a good discussion on that. Everybody kind of got a time frame.
I guess, John, just the one other thing, I don't know, we're hammering you, but I guess since this is strategic planning, I guess if, you know, I always like to look at the equipment we have and maybe what's coming in the future, like the wants or the needs. So to me, that would be the other piece, if you all have that information as far as, you know, if you know next year, you're gonna need 2 dump trucks or another snow plow, or, you know, Sherry brought up the great all, I think you call them, or something like that. It would just be nice to talk about things like that in here so we can be planning. I guess that goes for pretty much everybody, you know, as far as department heads, as far as what they see coming down the pike before it gets here. And, you know, next budget, you're going, well, I need X, Y, and Z.
When you're out on a crew and you're ditching, you got a crew out, how many does it take with the equipment that we have on hand now to be on that crew? Because you gotta have what, front flagger and a back flagger, you got somebody operating the dump truck, somebody operating the, whatever you're using, whether it's a little mini excavator or whatever, right? And then who else has to be on that site? You have somebody out there with a chainsaw, you got somebody with small hand
You
tools.
gotta have boots on the ground for sure.
So is that 5?
5 is minimal.
All right, that's,
You know, 6 is better. I
Okay.
like to keep, especially depends on where we're at. You know, more roads get a lot more traffic in.
right.
A lot of times you have to have that third person just to help out with traffic. It's-
So if there was a different piece of equipment, would that shrink the need for that volume of staff to be out there? Still gonna have 6?
I think you're still gonna, depending on where you're at, that's gonna be the big thing, but, you know, he may knock it down by 1 person at the most. I don't see it being that great. Like, yeah, if you had to, yeah, you could get by with 3 people if you were in the middle of nowhere doing this with no traffic, but nowadays, traffic is a nightmare. So that's where, you know, you got 2 people right there, you gotta have at least 3 more. You know, about 5 minimum for anything, no matter what kind of equipment.
Hey, John, can I ask, have you ever looked into subcontracting the flagging out? Because it's not as expensive as you think it is. We use them a lot of times just because they're liable at that point.
Right.
Like when we get semis on the side of a road in a busy street,
Right.
we'll get flaggers there for a couple $100 and let them deal with it. So I didn't know if like you'd ever looked at that, and let's say every Monday you all going ditching or something, and it could be a scheduled event, or
No, we've never.
it might be something just to look at. Keep 2 more people free. And
So they assume the liability for the
Yeah.
work
I
site?
still think you're,
Hmm.
I don't believe you could be fully.
they're flagging on both ends with radios. You know, I mean,
I know, but still, if you hired them, you're still gonna have some liability that they didn't.
that's why we hire them, Judge.
Well, I'm just saying.
It's just something to think about.
John, how did the tree branch out on Bridgeport Benson come out on Saturday when I called you about that? Was it a tree or a branch?
Just a big limb. It didn't amount to much.
Yeah. It had covered that road though.
Yeah.
I was heading out there and Saturday morning, and that branch, you had to completely go in the other lane.
Oh,
Was it on Bridgeport Benson or Bryant Benson?
It was on Bridgeport Benson, between 60 and P Ridge.
Mhm.
And it covered it out there. But thank you all for, how many guys you have to send out to get it? Two. So they just cut the branch?
Disappeared.
Thank you for getting that. All right, you fleet management is something you wanted?
Yeah,
Sherry?
which was fleet management spilled over into the last discussion because I was really talking about the maintenance of the fleet, having one facility and a dedicated group of staff that work in that facility to maintain all the vehicles in the county fleet, whether they're at the road department, the fire department, down here, sheriff's department, and again, we could take in potentially other vehicles depending on how it's staffed and how it's structured and from there. So that was my thought. And I think that's the kind of the discussion we've had in the past, but I'll open it up to you.
no, I agree. And I think there was a little confusion last time because I went and looked through my notes, and I think fleet maintenance to me isn't like we're going to go lease all these vehicles and start from scratch. To me, fleet maintenance is more of having, a dedicated mechanic and probably an office person that understands everything we have, when it needs to be replaced and still has some value, and what's coming down the pike. So no, I'm in agreement. And like I said, that's the notes that I had found. And I know, John was they're worked hard right now, and I don't think we're looking to have you guys take that over, but I think it is something. I guess I'd be curious, and Tamara might have this as far as, because it seems to me like all the agencies, the sheriff's department, everybody else just pays mechanics on their own, right? So I guess I'd be
Well, the
curious.
sheriff does some of their own maintenance too.
Right. But I mean, in the nutshell, I think the majority of people are just going to different mechanics or different, right? Is that how it works?
Yes. And it depends on some of the equipment. If it's under warranty, of course, we'll need to have it evaluated. I think John's run into that a couple of times, and you only want certain vendors working on certain types of
Sure.
equipment,
Right.
depending on their knowledge base.
Chief, how are you coming along on hiring a part-time maintenance person?
Judge, our deadline for applications is the 26th. So I have not spoken with Betty Jo. We have heard some interest from the general public, but I don't have a clue how many applications we have at this time.
Okay. Yeah, that's gonna be a kind of a key part of it too, is paying them. Getting them. But and facility, as I had said, I think we need to prepare for
Mhm.
that type of thing as we build a new one.
I agree.
The facility is gonna be
I agree.
the key to any, that type of stuff. I don't know about branching it out to water districts or whatever, but it minimally what we have on our own, it may be enough. I don't know. We'll just have to see as we move.
Do we keep
forward.
track of Could we pull what we're paying other mechanics or other shops and break it down to like labor, materials type stuff?
So to break it down by labor and materials would be pretty intensive.
Okay, what if we just
Um,
had that number combined?
What we do right now is sometimes you'll notice on your bill reports
Mhm.
is each vehicle is assigned and even equipment is assigned a number.
Mhm.
So we have that number listed first for the data entry portion of the invoice processing. And then it may say oil change, or it may say new tires, or it may say sensors. And I think we had a couple come through just through the road department, and it was actually some parts and labor. So we'll break it down and it'll say sensors / labor. But as far as going into the detail, how much was labor, how much was sensors,
Right.
but a lot of times you'll see filters, brakes,
Right.
because the road departments put them on themselves. So we get as much detail as we can without
Right.
clogging up the invoice system to let you know at least what piece of equipment, so
Yeah.
that if you think, well, I need to get rid of this piece of equipment because we're spending way too much money on it, you can look back and see by that. And it's just, like I said, it's tracked by also the GL code. So the road department's maintenance line is going to be tracked different than the coroner's maintenance line,
Mhm.
or planning and zonings, or the judge's office. They're all assigned individually.
But like, I'll say sheriff's department. Does he have, and I'm trying to remember, is there a budget line item for like maintenance of vehicles?
We don't, he takes most of that out of his own budget. I think the line that we have mainly is for insurance claims. If he has a vehicle that's
Right.
been involved in an accident.
His own budget has that in there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Maintenance.
I'm just trying to figure, we keep talking like, let's say fleet maintenance, but I think until we put some numbers to it, we're kind of guessing and sitting around saying, yeah, it'd be good, or no, it wouldn't be good. But
Mhm.
I think in order to get some numbers, we got to start somewhere, I mean,
You gotta
So-
remember, especially with, the fire trucks, a lot of that, there's some that our mechanics can do, and there's some they can't do.
Right.
Right.
It has to go off
right.
to other.
And that's the thing we're running into nowadays, it's more and more high tech,
Mhm.
and I'm having to farm a lot of my stuff out because we don't have the equipment. If you had to buy a $15,000 computer
That's the thing.
that has to be updated every 6 months, and you have to buy this connection to hook to this and this and this, a lot of times it's cheaper to send it to the dealer and say, hey, fix this thing. But
I agree, but that dealer might have it for 3 months.
right,
And then
that's
what's
true.
that costing you
I
on the
know, I
backside?
know,
Because that's really what's happening nowadays.
I know.
They keep it as long as they want it. And that's, time is money.
I know. But
So-
it seems like there's more and more of that
Yeah.
nowadays, that you've got to have the equipment to work on it. And, we've got some little stuff, but nothing, we can't get into some of this stuff. They've got it locked up tight.
So do you find that staying with a certain type of vehicle, I don't know if it's, you're using Fords or Whites or Volvos or, whatever. A lot of times if you're staying with a similar kind that you're knowledgeable about and the equipment handles, you don't have as many modules that you have to buy to put into that computer equipment to make sure that it handles all that. And then we may still have some stuff in the fleet that doesn't even have ports, to plug things into, and you have to just know
We're
how to
basically
crank it.
2 brand right now.
Mhm.
So we've got all the stuff, but our tools are limited. We can only get to the halfway up the steps. They won't let you all the way to the top. Because we haven't bought, the $15,000 scan tool.
Do you know if any of your counterparts in other counties have invested in things like that, or if they are?
Well, I'm not gonna say other counties, but I don't even know we're in town here. But,
Now, Lexington, your larger ones probably.
they have
a huge
invested
fleet.
some money into that, and they're across the river. I think they've bought a few things. So yeah, there's some stuff floating around here, and we talked about. We went and looked at it. And this and that, and I don't know. Is it worth it? It probably is in the long run. It should be.
Because most of those are probably monthly fee too, aren't they?
Yeah, you have to pay.
$100 a month to keep them up and keep them updated.
Something, I mean, because you got constantly are downloading
Right. you
Yeah.
have
new
to
schematics
be
and new.
connected to Wi-Fi all the time and
Yeah.
everything. It's a big deal, you know? And then these things get out of date, it's just like a phone, and you have to throw it away, start over.
Do you know what you all spend on maintenance in a year? Just for like parts and stuff, like, I know like we have a line item for our company. Do you have any idea what?
Yeah. 180, usually where it's
Right.
180, 180 somewhere.
And that's just materials probably. That's not
90%
mechanical.
of it, well, some stuff gets farmed out,
Yeah.
it comes out of that too. but
Yeah.
That's very little.
Well, that was kind of my thought, and Judge, you hit that on the head earlier in regard to, a location to kind of look at the monitoring the county's fleet, whether it's specifically attached to fiscal court or it's kind of that standalone like the coroner and the PVA vehicle and the sheriff's vehicles and those others. And, looking at, like you said, down the road, we don't know if the opportunity would be there, because if there is some downtime to take on external vehicles to that, it might be a way to actually have some revenue coming in. I'm not saying that's going to happen. Nobody knows, but it would open us up to the ability to do something like that, where we could have some kind of revenue stream coming in.
So like
So
right now,
just-
I mean, like PVA, like they drive around vehicles, right, looking at properties and stuff.
Yep.
Who takes care of like maintenance?
Remember, PVA is state, so they're not
They're
county,
not
so.
PVA.
But again, I was just using them
Yeah.
as an example to say that the potential is there.
Right.
Should the opportunity open itself up.
Right.
So,
Well, they already, I assume that their vehicles are, that stuff, they go to the state and fix.
Right.
If they don't, that would be their option. So, well, I don't know, so that's a good discussion. Chief, let's go to you now, if it's all right, and, cause what time do you have to leave, Sherry?
I have to be flying out the door at 2:30 or I'll miss. my-
We'll try to get you out here
Yeah.
before that. So about two, Chief, where are you on needs and wants, down the road?
Judge, the court was kind enough to fund the one brush truck this year. Unfortunately, we, not much after they funded it, we had one go completely out of service. So we're not back to square one, but we're waiting on, of course, it's going to be on the agenda this coming court for that new brush truck. And we still need that second one to go with what the strategic planning committee had recommended before. We still have one brush truck that's extremely bad shape that's currently still in service, and keep your fingers crossed for that one. As far as engines go, we did discuss possibly getting ahead of the curve. We don't have one or we didn't ask for one in the budget this year, but next year or the year after, we would like to separate a couple of those. We have two that were bought right together, and they will go out together. So we definitely don't want to incur both of those at the same time in the future. We'd like to spread those out.
Okay. So Chief, good to see you, by the way. So for next budget, you're saying another fire truck. What type of fire truck, or what are we talking money-wise?
We definitely need that brush truck.
Well, I believe you said that's kind of now, right? You were talking about down the road, we want to separate the two trucks.
Correct. It would be a fire engine to replace, well, not to replace, but to replace a front line, to put with that front line and kind of upgrade our reserve trucks, which are all early 90s at this time.
I know just a guesstimation, what financially would that cost roundabout?
Oh, we would hope to get in for under 500, 450, somewhere around in there.
Okay.
Are you okay?
Right there. That's right there.
Oh, man, yeah. Yeah, that's a good one, chief. Yeah.
Thanks, sir.
You
Okay,
said that so easily too. Right around 500. No
Well,
big
that's-
deal.
remember, that's one of them. There's
Yeah, I
two.
know.
There's
That's
one
after-
coming in after
That
that.
may be why he coughed. So-
Yeah,
That's after the ladder truck. It made it a little easier to say.
yeah.
Unfortunately, there's not a bargain basement price if you buy two, is there?
There's not a Black Friday sale on those anywhere coming up.
All right, anything else, chief?
Not at this time unless the court or you have questions for me.
Okay,
Judge, I had one other thing I thought of on the way down here, and
does it concern the chief?
it does not,
Okay.
outside of what.
All right, thank you, chief. Stay on, we may come back to you. Okay,
I wanted to also talk about, we had talked about in the past, like, training as being something that all of our staff could benefit from. Basic things like, customer service, sexual harassment, those kind of things and the sexual harassment and a variety of trainings could help offset some of our insurance costs. We've talked about that in the past. So, and I know Betty Jo unfortunately is not here today. I didn't know if she had looked into that any further about how we, capitalize on those opportunities that are out there that could, not only enrich the staff, but also benefit the bottom line of Franklin County too.
okay, Betty Jo.
She has, I don't know if she has dates set up, but she has, she's looking at using the sheriff's, training room, our training room, sheriff's training room, and having an organization come in, and she was trying to figure out how she was going to split the staff up so that she could come into several meetings.
I think
We all
Keiko
couldn't
was
look at
providing a
one.
lot of that service.
Keiko is, but there was
Yeah.
also an outside vendor that she was looking at,
Well,
and
The diversity one is the one that
yes,
is outside of that,
yes.
but it's gonna be free. We're trying to get the one that the
Yes,
city.
but there's,
Absolutely.
there's
That's,
another one that is going to be that we're going to need to pay for, and we'll probably have to do some type of budget transfer because Susan and I just had this conversation a few days ago. Our training budget line is not going to cover all the trainings this year. There's no way it's going to handle with everything going back to normal and just the list. I reached out to Amy Green. We'll just get a list of remaining conferences this year. We've got, under the judge's training line, there's at least 7 employees who come out of that line, and it's not going to cover some of the trainings. We've got 2, Brittany's got 2, one that she's speaking at, that then Susan's got 2 that are, none of them are nearby, and with the virtual kind of going away, the fees seem to have increased some too. So any of them that are over 50 miles, of course, make it eligible for an overnight hotel stay. We don't have an office pool car that we can drive. So we're trying to figure out how to handle the mileage costs, the hotel stays. The employees want to drive back and forth. So training, definitely look to see some requests for money to be moved to cover those.
But employee training as a whole is, yes, Betty Jo's got that covered.
Yes.
We've had a meeting about that weeks ago.
Mhm.
And so,
and so look at
sexual
it.
harassment is a mandatory,
Yes.
needs to be updated. Diversity is a
Yep.
request by me. There was another one too, I can't remember.
With Keiko, they have some online, and Betty Jo was trying to work with Dwayne Linton from Keiko to
Mhm.
get that set up. She was waiting on the conversion of the email addresses because your identity on there for verification of the classes is based on your email address. So she's, I believe, reached out to Andrew to get an updated list to see who all has been converted over and hasn't been, so that we can start that registration process.
But of those 2, I'm insisting that we do it in person and not on Zoom. I want to make sure because I want to make sure everybody's hearing what is.
So is that like department heads? Like who will attend those?
All staff.
It should be everybody.
Okay.
It'll be all
Those
staff.
should be.
Okay.
And so we'll have to do it in shifts,
Right, okay.
3 or 4 or 5 different shifts. Whatever.
Gotcha.
Which means we'll have to pay somebody to teach each one of those.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we're looking at.
But that's part of it.
Mhm.
But Keiko will provide Are they gonna charge?
The virtual, no, the virtual will be free.
But we're not gonna do the virtual. so.
We are on some things that
But-
staff can take as far
yeah,
as.
Like customer service.
yes,
and
those
that kind of-
topics
those kind
there.
of things
Mhm.
can be done virtually, but the others, like the judge was saying, those are really good to be. Now, I have reached out to the Commission on Human Rights, had indicated that they have some sexual harassment and some diversity training at a conference that I went to. As a matter of fact, Tamara was at the conference and Susan was with me. We were all at the Treasurers Conference, and they came and presented and said, if you need diversity and sexual harassment training, here is my number.
We got that.
So
We've got
we do,
that.
we absolutely have it because several of us were at that training. But the good thing is that is one that they talked to us about being able to come in and provide at either low or no cost. And since that's kind of their bailiwick, it would be great to utilize those that can do that. And I know they had some staff in Louisville. I don't know how frequently they have staff in Frankfurt, but it's so great that we are here where we could piggyback off of not having to deal with travel costs and things like that, you know, to maximize the benefit of the training and lessen the cost of it to us. But I know we specifically talked about those. Sorry, Rick.
I was going to say, will those trainings be available for constitutional officer staff as well? Or is that just executive staff?
We did all
I would think.
all constitutional
all.
officers were involved.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
I don't think that they're gonna charge us by the number of people that are trained, maybe by the days or whatever. But I do know that diversity is, the person that presents it has already said they would do it for free. And I believe sexual harassment, there may be a nominal cost for it, but so yeah, we're looking into that.
How many people fit in that sheriff's conference room? Just curious.
And probably about 30 or 40.
It's big.
Yeah,
So-
it's
Yeah.
about 30 or 40. Sitting at the tables, two at a table. So
I just didn't know if
I
things
think
got
there's
expensive,
25
we went to
tables.
library or
I
something.
believe there's 25 tables, so there's two at each
Yeah,
table. So
We need
that's
to use
50.
that facility more.
library or the sheriff's office.
Sheriff's
No, you
Yes.
want that one. Why?
We
It's-
need the
it's
sheriff's
free,
office.
yeah.
more.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Okay, Chief, thank you. Go to Jeremy now. Jeremy, what do you have?
I don't reckon I have anything. I don't have any, big ticket items or anything that I foresee, just normal.
Have you gotten give us an update on the heating units that you put in, I guess at the fire stations and other places?
Yeah, the park, it's done, the office, the guardhouse, the new HVAC systems in both of those. All the fire stations, we're finishing up Schweitzer right now, putting the hanging heaters in out there. All the systems, the living quarter systems have been changed out. We had new ceiling fans installed in 4 of the stations, didn't have ceiling fans. We could have put all the, nice heaters in there, but all the heat stayed up on the ceiling, so we put ceiling fans in, move the air down, make it more efficient. But everything's done except for just finishing the 2 heaters at Schweitzer.
Jeremy, how's that new truck working out?
The
The-
utility truck
yeah.
is good. Yeah. Yeah, we can haul stuff on it, instead of having to have everything delivered, certain length
Right.
stuff. Adam can go get it and haul it. You ain't got to unload tools every day.
Is there anything you wish, looking down the road, that you would have gotten different or added on to that truck, just as a side
I
note?
reckon,
Okay,
no, it's about all we need.
perfect, thank you.
All right.
Good.
Charlie Lewis, you on?
I'm here.
All right, speak. Of course, we've got the park going with feasibility, but what do you have? can go along with that, not just presently what you have that may need to be upgraded.
Okay. Well, as you mentioned, fortunately, we are doing a extensive master plan, but looking at things outside the window that I see today would be, it'd be nice to have an additional work truck here at the park. We're getting one of the fire trucks, but it's being repaired down at the road department, and it's kind of going to stay in the park. I don't think it's really road ready, but it'll help us if we need to haul some stuff inside the park a little bit.
Is that a pickup? You're saying you're getting something from the fire department. Is it just a pickup or?
Old brush truck.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I was a little jealous. I thought you were getting a fire truck.
I was thinking how you.
He said.
He did say fire truck. I was like, that's pretty cool.
How you going? You're jealous?
Yeah.
You wanted a fire truck?
A moving splash pad, right, Charlie?
Don't tell Lambert if there's a fire truck available.
Yeah.
Just don't tell him.
We
Well,
could
we
drive
have
through.
one of those.
Yeah.
Don't tell him.
We have one of those fire trucks for sale on GovDeals, Squire.
Please don't share that with him.
Yeah.
But yeah, we could drive through the park and spray people, but and then we've got some golf course equipment, and that's kind of specialty equipment. It's just not your everyday mower. That's getting some age on it. That some of those pieces are $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a piece. Unfortunately, we don't have many of them, but the ones we do have are getting some age on them. And we try to repair everything in house, just like everybody else does. And then if it's out of our scope of expertise, we load it up and haul it down to the road department. We try to stay out of the John Deere bays, because their mechanics are pretty expensive, but sometimes we do have to utilize, an actual dealer. But we try to avoid that as much as we can.
Charlie, Saturday I didn't pay attention, but someone mentioned to me that the bleachers that we have at the soccer fields are wooden, and that they've gotten splinters.
Okay.
From bleachers. Is that true?
It could be. It could be. We do have a few with wooden seats. 80% of ours, or maybe 90%, are aluminum. And we're actually having some of those repaired just in preparation for the fair. But I'll go check that out. We'll address that.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Charlie? How about Carter House in good shape? We've got a new roof on it, and heating and air's been done, I guess, in all of our, in your office. Is that, can you feel a difference in your air conditioning?
Absolutely, and it's quieter without the window units.
I bet it is. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Jeremy.
All right.
Yeah, it's definitely an improvement, and I'm sure it will be in the winter as well. We're not having to run these baseboard heaters.
Yeah. Okay.
That runs the electric up pretty high.
Okay. Any other questions for Charlie?
Judge, if I could.
Yes, you can.
The sewer pump station being proposed there at the park, I had conversations with the consultant and the sewer department last week. As part of that project, the sewer department has discussed assisting us with eliminating the pump station that serves Charlie's office, those public restrooms, as well as the Carter House. I requested that we go with an 8-inch main for that connection back down to the pump station that would allow for future flow upstream to accommodate potentially anything that may come out of the master plan. So we'll be meeting with Charlie, the sewer department, myself, and the design engineer to go over that, just to make sure that we have the logistics down correctly, and make sure it's going to address Charlie's needs, just keep Charlie in the loop. But that's an opportunity to think forward, get some infrastructure in the ground that will accommodate the future development, because it will be an 8-inch gravity line, so that would be helpful. And reduce his maintenance costs on that pump station.
Did you share that information with the Hitchcock Group by any chance? Or you
Not
waiting?
yet, I just learned this Thursday.
Oh, okay.
I was at the conference, I was actually sitting at a table with the design engineer,
Gotcha.
we were discussing, so.
Good.
So they're gonna work up some revised drawings.
Right.
I did see an email from Mr. Barker today as well, Robert, that he wants to meet.
Great.
Okay. All right. That it, Robert?
The only one of the other big ticket item that may come about for us is this golf course irrigation system. I've mentioned it before, just briefly, but yeah, it's getting older and older. You know, a complete redo would be ideal. That would be, you know, very nice. At least coming from the pump house out onto the course, you know, from the meter to the pump house is fine. We have actually experienced some breaks there before, so it might just be a pipe upgrade, but that's potentially a six-figure item if we really did it correctly. So I just wanted to throw that out there because it's so expensive.
Is it something that has to be done all at one time, or can it be phased in?
Both, all at one time would be great, would be ideal. Just if you got the equipment on site and you're out there, you know, making, you know, doing some ditch work or putting in new valves, new heads, all at once would be ideal. But you know, you might be able to phase it, do, you know, 3, 3, and 3. You know, I'm not sure, but it's just the maintenance end on the older system. It continues to increase.
So Charlie, when you say six figures, I mean, you're saying 100 or 500, or do you have any idea? Have you priced?
Just 100 plus, 100 to 100 to 150 in that range.
Charlie, what about the golf carts before we move off of you? Did you get those electric?
We're gonna, yeah, I'll be putting some specs together here real soon and putting that out for the new. You know, we're gonna go with those electric carts if the money comes in right. It should, according to their quotes that I got for the budget process. So that'll be coming up soon, and hopefully we can get that on the agenda in a fairly soon court. Because there's a lead time for them to order them. It's like a 4 to 6 month ordering process, I think, to get them in here, because they're like cars, you know. That's everything's so far out in the distance, you have to order them.
All right. Any other questions for Charlie? Okay, Charlie, Jeremy, Robert, do you have anything else?
No, sir. Not what I can recall.
Robert, are you in the process of hiring a part-time?
Yes,
How's that going?
I haven't talked to Joe about it.
Okay. It's out there though, right?
It is. Yes.
Okay.
It's on the county's website. It's on the Kentucky Chapter of the American Planning Association website as well.
So the way that process works is Betty Jo is the contact.
Right.
So she receives all the applications, and even our links, our online application, all returned back to her. So we had a deadline for July 26th for the part-time planner, part-time building inspector, and the part-time fire department mechanic.
It's all on 26th.
Mhm.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Anybody else on? Rick, did you have anything? Rick Sparks?
No, sir. Thank you, Judge. I was just listening for planning on my end too.
Okay. All right.
Good deal.
If that's everybody, if there's a motion to adjourn,
Motion to adjourn.
okay.
Yep.
Thanks, guys. We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it. Everybody being on. Thank you, staff. So we are adjourned. There you go, Sherry. You know, you get